Hi, welcome back to another Terranscapes video. I'm Mike and I will be your guide tonight. Why did I just say that? Well, I had a comment from a viewer who said I never say my name. I don't know, it never occurred to me. I am Terranscapes. But then I thought I should probably say my name, and the only way I could think of including it was as a guide. That just kept occurring to my mind over and over. So I'm going to be your guide. I'm your guide tonight. And I also thought I would start videos with a cocktail. Good for me and maybe educational for you. I'm a huge fan of cocktails, and I have been trying to sort of bring them out of the depths of the 50s or wherever they were when they dropped off, aside from, you know, scorpion bowls and such. And so to start off that trend, I'm starting with my favorite cocktail. This is a vodka martini, and I put in a little more vermouth than the traditional of today's martini, which seems to be more about vodka and less about vermouth. And so I kind of go back. I'm a little more old school, little twist of lime in it, and this is my favorite cocktail. I made a slightly smaller one, though, so I could still edit. This is longer than most of the cocktail intros. A nice thing about a martini, I mean, is that it dictates its consumption. So I think the only cocktail that does that, because it has no ice in it, yet you want to drink it when it's frosty cold. So you can't let it warm up. So it demands a pace of consumption. I love that. I'm like, I give myself over to my martini. You must, you know, guide me. And tip, 2 martini glasses. Put one in the freezer. And then when you go to make a martini, you take that one out and you put the other, Jesus Christ, you put the other martini glass in the freezer. And that way you always have a fresh one, even if you're going through a couple martinis, right? You pull it out, you swap. I broke one of my martini glasses, and now I only have one, and that's not making me happy, so I have to replace it at some point. All right, anyway, you're not here to talk about cocktails. I just force you to listen to them, to me talk about them. So what are you here for today? You are here to see me varnishing the frame for the orc board. And the reason I decided to include this video is to emphasize what I think is the important role that a frame plays in, oh, there go my notes, in any kind of a piece you're presenting. I think the frame is something that most people don't consider very much, and I think it is a very important component. And so I wanted to take some time, show you what I've been doing, some of the things I've been struggling with, and be able to share some of that importance with you. So let's cut to the cam, and we'll take a look. So this is the frame. The frame is comprised of pine boards that I reclaimed from an IKEA bed frame that was slated for the trash. The wood was perfect thickness. I like the pine color, and when I sanded off the stain that it was on, it was like a dark black. It left this really nice pattern around the knots in the wood, and I just was like, this is exactly what I wanted, and it just fell into my lap. Very, very quickly, what I've been doing is varnishing it with Minwax Poly Shades, which has varnish and stain in it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's hard to work with, but it affords you some control over the intensity of the effect, and it offers some depth and translucency. I've had some trouble with bubbles. I don't like the brush I'm using. I replaced that brush. I'm not going to get into a lot of woodworking here, which I did in the last recording I just did of this, and I'll try to be a little bit more focused on the actual effect of the frame. So what you can see is the uneven cut that I've done around the edges. and that is to follow the contour of the board because it has several layers and uneven edges. My wife was talking with me, and she gave me the idea, and I was like, perfect. So I've edged everything with about a 1 inch, maybe some areas are a 1/2 inch above the terrain. So what I'm working on in those side panels, of course, is where it borders the cliff coming down. That's the access panel that goes into the large board that's in the middle, and that's where the electronics are going to be. The color of this stain, it's nowhere near as dark as what you're seeing there. The lighting effect is a little bit odd, but I do think I've gone a little too dark with it, and I'm thinking about how to remedy that, but I'm not worried about it at the moment. So why have I created this frame? It's not, in fact, really, it's not for protection at all. That's not even a consideration of mine. Whatever I'm going to put on it is going to protect it. That's not something I'm worried about. I wanted something that is going to visually enshroud the board so that it adds a dressing, a class look to it. Hopefully, if I can pull off the wood finish nice enough. And it also serves to frame the interior of the board. So it does two things. It's going to give a nice fine. Oh my God. I'm not going to edit that. It gives a nice finished look to the outside of it. So when you're approaching it, right, you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it also gives some of that finish to the inside because there's a lip that goes around it. And so that helps to check up the eye, keep you focused within the board, and complement it. So I've gone with a relatively dark color because I feel like the board is a kind of a dark tone motif. At least that's how I'm going to finish it in its final look. And so I thought that it would be complementary to have that as a darker color without competing with the board. So that's the other aspect, is ensuring that you create something that doesn't show up the work that it's containing, but is something that complements it. And without a good frame, your eye will tend to fall off the edge of the board. It will detract from it if the frame isn't very nice. I think that's probably the most common problem people have, is the frame is not nice enough. And so you want to have something that is attractive, but doesn't look like you've spent 40 hours on your frame and 2 hours on the terrain. So this is more for display pieces, obviously, or dioramas or that sort of thing. But it's a visual concept that I think is important to keep in mind, and I think is something that people very frequently overlook. So just to wrap up on the technique that you see here, you can see the board in the front actually is showing the color a little bit more true. I've had problems with drips underneath. I miss some almost every time. I have had some bubble issues. I actually changed the brush that I'm using now, and it's been a little bit of a journey, and I've been learning about woodworking as I've been going along, wood finishing, I should say. So things are, it's a skill I'm acquiring, I think, is the best way. So if you have tips on what I've just been doing, don't tell me, because I already have ideas. And this is me covering it to prevent it from dust. So I have been away. This is a little addendum here. I've been away a little bit from YouTube, and it's part of the New Year cycling. So I go through and I look over all my record for the previous year, and I reassess goals and where I should be spending my hours, where I spent them, and then there's other things that come around with the new year in terms of in general. So there was a little gap there, and I want to let you know right now that I have shot 4 additional videos than this, and I shot them first, so I know I can honestly say that I shot them. So there is going to be some regular content coming out over the next month or so. So if you've been wondering where I am, I'm back. if you're a patron, you know I've been busy. And the reason you know is because I have changed sort of the way I interact with Patreon a little bit. And I've been putting up a post almost every day. Sometimes it's every day. Sometimes there's a small gap, which is about the work that I've done the day before. And so I'm using it as a kind of a blog. It sort of almost feels like a journal in some ways, because I'll have this as a record. I could go back and see how I felt and what I thought, and I don't know if I'll ever go back and look at them. But anyway, it's there. And it feels like a nice way to kind of also keep me focused on work, because I'm like, I have to make a post and there has to be something in it besides nothing. So it's been a interesting new relationship to Patreon, and I think I don't know if anybody appreciates them, but I know I do. And if you're interested in seeing something like that, then you could join and become a patron. Patreon sent me a little note at the end of the year, at the beginning of this year, that said that I am more active on my Patreon page than 95% of creators on Patreon. So, A, I'm probably spending too much time there, and B, you know that there's stuff there. So it's, I don't know, it's something I've really been enjoying interacting with, and it's always in flux. And a super big thank you to all my patrons, because they do more than support me. They support me in a variety of ways, and it's not just financially, which is super helpful, but emotionally and feedback-wise, and it's just, it means a lot. So I just wanted to thank them directly. So as a final quick comment on the actual video, I just want to say that doing that cabinet work that I did for the ocean board project, which I think was a bit of a blunder. I think I said that then. Not the best decision, but it's given me some woodworking skills and confidence to try other woodworking for other projects, hence this frame, which is a benefit. So there has been some grain harvested from an otherwise fallow field, if you will. And so that kind of makes me feel retroactively better, if that can be done. Anyway, so stay tuned, because I shot 4 other videos that are going to be coming out, and 2 of them are non-project videos that are pretty different than things I've shown. So I think you'll enjoy those. They were things that I enjoyed creating. So hopefully you will come back to see those, because you know that I will be back soon with another Terranscapes video.